Welcome to another Circle Chat with Magical Beginnings. My name is Melissa, and I am one of the directors at our River Street location. I am the host of Circle Chats just to keep everything flowing and moving. But today we have a very special Circle Chat for you. We are going to be talking to the directors and office staff of three of our locations: our Peabody location, our Wakefield location, and our Maple Street location in Middleton, to talk to you about our stories and what really connects our directors and makes us the awesome school that we are. So we're going to start first with Miss Laura's story because she has been with the company since day one, and her story is one of the founding stories of Magical Beginnings. So Miss Laura, you can take it away and talk about,
Sure.
how you became a director at Magical Beginnings. Actually, how you became the senior managing director of Magical.
All right. So it's kind of an interesting and fun story, but I actually moved to Peabody when I was in 7th grade, and I lived right here at the Peabody location because this is my family's house and their property. So that's where I grew up. I started at the Brown School, and I was super quiet and shy, and didn't really talk to anybody. I didn't know anyone, and then
which is very different from now.
I know, right? So, true story. The owner of Magical Beginnings, Linda, showed up my house one day, walked in, and was like, "Hi, I'm Linda. We're gonna be friends. Let's go for a walk." And then we were friends ever since. And that is literally how we met, and we stayed, very good, best friends for over the years. And then when we graduated high school, she opened up her own home daycare. She's always been very creative and ambitious. And I went to college and I earned a degree actually in elementary education. I tried to sub for a while, but I, needed to grow up and get health insurance and all that fun stuff. So I actually went to work at KinderCare, where my younger sister Kim was already working as a toddler teacher. She's like, "Well, why don't you just come here? We're hiring right now." I was like, early childhood, but I did it. And I went, and I remember on my first day, I was paired with another teacher on her first day, who is actually Miss Ellie, our preschool teacher here at Magical Beginnings. That's how we met. We were both put in the young toddler room. I didn't even know if they could eat. And I remember saying to Ellie, "Can they eat?" And she was like, "Yes." She was raising 2 young children. And I actually ended up falling in love with early childhood. I just felt like this is where it's at. This is where their minds develop. And it was so important. Like, I felt like we could get to know the kid at such a young age and watch them grow and develop and help them meet their milestones if they weren't. So I went back and earned my degree in early education as well. So and I'm certified in both. And then I just loved it. I worked at KinderCare from 1992 to 1997. And then I wanted to get back into the school system. I just felt like I needed to take that leap. So while I was at the same time, Linda was like, "You know what? I want to extend my family home daycare. So why don't you come help me here, work here, then you can go in interviews." And then one day, out of the blue, my grandmother called, and I answered the phone at Linda's home daycare, and she said, "Can I talk to Linda?" And I was like, "Okay." So she did, and my grandparents had decided they wanted to sell the property. They knew Linda was looking to grow even more, so they offered her to buy this property, which she did. And I stayed with her, and we opened up here, and it just kept going and flowing ever since. So I had brought some teachers that I knew from before. Miss Carol was our opening infant teacher here until she retired. Ellie, who is another one of my best friends now that we taught together, since toddlers, she is still with us when we opened in July of 2000. So she's been our preschool teacher since then as well. And then eventually Linda just grew and grew and grew. And now we have 6 going on 7 centers. And so she promoted me to the senior managing director, where I, can go around and help out the directors, lend support. My sister Kim, who also came with us and opened Magical Beginnings as a toddler teacher, is now the director in Hamilton. And our youngest sister, Courtney, who would just come here every day when she was you know, late teens, early 20s. And I remember she used to just come and say hi. And then finally one day I said to her, being the big sister, if you're going to just hang around, why don't you go get an application? Because we could use someone to do breaks and make yourself some money. So she did. And she also ended up loving it and going back to school as well and getting her certification, early childhood education. Now she's the director with Melissa Denish at River Street.
With
so
me.
So
I know. I think it's
yes,
so
that's
funny
how
that
it is.
she just went and ate lunch with you, and now now she's running a school
Right.
with me. So
So, you know, I had to be the big sister and get the ball going. So I'm glad I did, and I'm glad she listened. So, you know, we get to all work together, which is great.
It's so nice to hear that, you know, you brought so many people that that kind of probably helped you to learn your early childhood journey, whereas you started in elementary, brought with you over here, and some of them are still here. And then a lot of us have been, actually all of us have been able to learn from you. So we really are a connected community. And I think you'll see that more and more as we go through everybody's stories. So
I mean, I literally get to work where I grew up, work with my family and some of my best friends. So it's actually been great. And Denish's mom was actually my student teacher when I taught preschool. So it's a really small connection.
Part of my story. So when people watch the second video, which my story will be in, you can make that connection of how Laura was my mom's mentor for her student teacher. So. Well, thank you so much, Laura, for sharing. We love that story, and we love that your childhood home is still a part of Magical Beginnings and is, I guess you could say, our Magical Beginnings icon. It's our starter school, and you know, it's the best. We love Magical Beginnings. So now we'll move on to Miss Kaylee, who is the assistant director, right, at Magical Beginnings Peabody. So Kaylee, why don't you tell us your story of how you became the assistant director? Oh, you're still muted though.
So sorry about that. Okay. So I grew up in Syracuse, New York, where my mom owns a preschool. So 20 years ago, I started working with her. And then I moved here and I went to school for early childhood. And I actually student taught in the preschool room here in Peabody in 2007. And then I became the preschool teacher in the same room in 2008. And I've been here ever since. And I actually co-taught with Miss Courtney, who is the director in River Street, and her and I worked together for 10 years. I actually worked with Miss Laura down in preschool when she was still in the preschool room. I've worked with a lot of our directors that have become great friends of mine, but they all pretty much started out here, and we're all still close, which is great. And then I was in the classroom for about 11, 12 years, and now I'm in the office with Miss Laura as the assistant director.
That's awesome. So another connection with Courtney. So we should have just had her on this call, but so my co-director Courtney and Kaylee were co-teachers before they both moved up to the office. So we stole both of them for the office because they were both so awesome. So thank you, Kaylee, for sharing your story and making some more connections for us.
Thank you.
So after the Peabody school was opened, you know, Linda moved on to open her second school, which is Magical Beginnings in Wakefield. And that's actually the school that I started at with Miss Erin and Miss Katie. So this school has been through how many renovations? 3 or 4 to keep expanding. We started out small and kept growing. So I'm sure Miss Erin has a lot more to say about that story. But Erin, why don't you share your early childhood journey with us?
Sure. So thank you for having me, number one. So I started in childcare in 1996. So it's been about 25 years now.
You want to know a fun fact about that?
Sure.
I was 5 years old.
That was really aging me, Miss Melissa. So thank you for that.
Sorry, keep going.
But so basically I started at KinderCare as well. And fun fact, Miss Laura, who is now the senior directing manager, she actually trained me at my first early childhood job as a toddler teacher.
Makes me
So
feel so old.
I,
Wow, that's awesome.
I have to say, like, it was a great experience, and I really think that's kind of what got my foot in the door. And I really just enjoyed the training that I got. I loved working with toddlers. It was a passion of mine, so I just kept with it. I worked at KinderCare for about 11 and a half to 12 years. And it was just a real overall great experience. I then got pregnant with my first son, who is now 13. And I just decided that it was a time for a change. I wanted something not as busy, because I was a toddler teacher at KinderCare, but then I did move up and opened one of their new schools and became the assistant director. So I was just working really long hours, long days and shifts. And I just wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit and enjoy my son. So I actually left. And what I did is I called Miss Linda, who I knew was the owner of Magical Beginnings, because a lot of our staff had left to work for her. So I called her and basically I said, I know you're never hiring. Your center does not lose teachers. You've had your same staff forever, but I would love the opportunity to work for you someday. And it was awesome because she said, actually, we're opening a brand new school in Wakefield. And, I was so excited. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to interview with you and I definitely want to take a chance. So I met with her like that same week. And then I basically started in the Wakefield location the day that they opened in 2009. So I was hired as a toddler teacher, the Playful Panda teacher. So I worked as a Playful Panda teacher from 2009 to 2013. I loved every minute of it. Laura came over and was a director here for a little short period of time.
Oh, yes, I forgot about that. I was.
Yeah.
You were. It was just a great experience.
You trained me in toddlers too, Erin. So
yes, we also trained Melissa in toddlers. Yeah. So it is, like you said, a small community. We're all connected. But in 2013, I believe that's when we opened our third location, which is the Maple Street School. So things started changing a little bit with management, and I was offered the director's position at the Wakefield location. I did not hesitate to take it, as I knew like growing with the company is something I definitely was interested in. I'd already had the management experience from KinderCare. And now the rest is pretty much history. It's, 2021. I'm in the same position I was back then. Love every minute of it. I love seeing us grow. I love seeing all our Zooms grow with more faces. And it's a really great company to work for. So I'm really lucky.
Aw, that's so nice, Erin. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very nice to work with you too.
Thanks, Melissa.
Speaking of working with, we've worked with Miss Katie for a long time. So Miss Katie, would you like to tell us your story and maybe how you're connected to me, Erin, Laura, Melissa, Kaylee, all of us?
My story goes way back to 2005. So I actually moved back from Connecticut. I was living in Connecticut at the time and needed to find a full-time job. I reached out to Courtney, the director of River Street, actually one of my best friends from childhood. And she was like, oh, we're hiring over in Peabody. Why don't you come over and fill out an application? So I came over, filled out an application, met with Miss Laura and Miss Linda, and I was offered the toddler position. So my son Joey was in Miss Laura's class. So Joey went to Miss Laura, and I worked in the toddler class with Miss Melissa Ritchie, director of Maple Street.
Wave your hand, Melissa.
And we became actually really close. We're actually really good friends today too. So as time went on, I loved working with toddlers. I loved it. I watched them learn, grow, everything. It was an amazing experience. However, after those many 3 years or whatever, I got pregnant with my second son and decided to kind of cut back my hours and float. And during that time, floating at Peabody was amazing. I got to, kind of meet all the teachers a little bit more, help out in infants, help out again in toddlers, and help out again in preschool. And, during those times, it was nice to experience like every age group. So I really enjoyed that. And then after that time, Linda actually had called me and said that they were opening up a new location in Wakefield. Do you want to be an infant teacher? So I was like, at the time, I was like, yeah, actually, I do want to work full time now. So I came over to the Wakefield location, and I worked in the infant room with Miss Gia. So I love the babies. They were so sweet. And, you know, during the whole 9 years, I'm like, I've been with this company so many years. I want to grow with the company. So I reached out to Miss Linda and she said, definitely apply if we open up enough, you know, next office position. So when that opportunity came, I applied and I actually got the position and I was working with Miss Erin. And it's just been an amazing experience. I've worked in the company as assistant director, well, office manager for 2 years. And then Linda promoted me to assistant director. And I just can't say, I've met so many people. I've worked with all of you girls. You guys are amazing. I love what I do. And, you know, knowing Courtney, knowing, you know, being close friends with Melissa now, Gia, Erin, all of you girls, it's just been an amazing experience. And I truly feel like it's more like family than it is work. So.
Yeah, it really is. And like, not to make another connection, but Katie trained me in infants too.
Oh yeah, I did. Sorry about that, Melissa. Sorry, I was
I
talking
used
too much.
to take over for Katie when she left in the afternoon. So, so, you know, we, like I said, we're all really connected in a lot of ways, but I think that's what makes our management staff so special and like really makes our schools seem like family to families and new staff that comes in. And I think that's what helps us retain staff, which I think is awesome. So,
and I feel like a lot of us have like so many great connections, which helps us too. So
yeah. And like, I think we'll just keep seeing more of them. So,
yes.
so are going to move on to Katie's first co-teacher, Miss Melissa Ritchie. And she's going to tell us her story. So Maple Street was the third location that Magical Beginnings opened. So Melissa, why don't you tell us how you became the director of Maple Street?
Sure. My connection goes back from 2002. I started with Magical Beginnings in 2002. At the time, I was attending Salem State College, working towards my bachelor's in early childhood. I was also one that came from KinderCare. At the time when I was at KinderCare, Erin was still there. So I had met Erin at KinderCare in my early years. I was afloat at KinderCare. I kind of just bounced around from room to room, learning the different age groups. But one of my courses at Salem State had asked me to observe 2 different types of daycares. So KinderCare was more of a chain location, and Magical Beginning was a private one. And I lived in Lakeshore Park right behind Magical Beginnings. So I used to drive by it all the time, and I always wondered what it was like inside. So, and one of my friends from my childhood is Linda's nephew, Chad. So my connection to Linda was sort of through him at the time when we were kids. I always knew that it was his aunt that owned the daycare. So I was always like intrigued by the school. So I reached out to Linda to ask her if I could do my second set of observations at her school. So I did my first set at KinderCare, and then I did my second set at the private school at Magical Beginnings. And I just loved the feel from the moment I walked in. It was just, first off, so clean. It was immaculate. It's still so clean. And I feel like from most of us that have come from the Peabody School know how we want our school to be clean. Sorry. So we always try to bring that to our schools. So from there, you know, like I said, the cleanliness was the first thing. And then everyone was so warm and welcoming. It really had that home feel. I just remember back then, like one of the things that the kids used to do all the time is on cold days and rainy days, back before, you know, things have changed. The kids always used to bring in the slippers. And I always just think that was so cute that they would come in their shoes, and on the snowy days, they could put their slippers on. And I just always remembered that, especially in preschool. So when I first started my observation, I kind of just moved from classroom to classroom. I got to know everyone. And then I'll never forget, Miss Kim was a toddler teacher at the time. And she was like, when I finished, she's like, why don't you apply? You know, before you leave, why don't you apply? So I did. I met with Linda, and she offered me a part-time position at the school to work afternoons after I got out of college, after I got out of school. So I started there, I floated around, and then eventually I used to plan the curriculum for the afternoons and toddlers. And then when I graduated Salem State, she offered me a full-time position in infants for the summer. So I started working with Ms. Carol. We worked there for a bit, and then I moved to toddlers and found my love for toddlers. So at that point, me and Katie ended up being co-teachers. We only knew each other for a short period of time, and we became really close. She actually was in my wedding just a few months after I met her. Our connection just was instant. So she was in my wedding. So wasn't her son, Joey, who was in Laura's class. And while I was a toddler teacher, I had my first son, Mason. So he went through the PVD school from infancy all the way through preschool. He had as teachers, Miss Kim, who's in Hamilton. He had Kaylee, who's, as you just met, from Peabody, and he also had Miss Courtney from River Street. So that kind of connected us all. While I was there getting my experience, I already had the degree, so I was working on my experience. So I also obtained my teaching certificate in infants, toddlers. I became lead and then became director 1 and 2. So a few times I had met with Linda just when we had our yearly reviews. I just mentioned if there was ever any growth at some point, I'd love to move into the office. So eventually when Maple Street was here, there was some changes here. So I decided to move over here and I became the assistant director. At that time, I had my second son. So he came with me. We transitioned over from PBD to here. He went through the preschool, toddler preschool here. And then I went from assistant director to where I am now as the director. And I feel like where all of us in the office have some connection with each other somehow. Like I mentioned, I knew Erin back at KinderCare before I came here. And then all of us girls that taught in PBD, we all started together. So we have our support of one another. So we always call each other and we know we can rely on one another, not just here at work, but also in our personal lives too, because we've grown to be such good friends and family. We've all kind of in a way raised each other's children. So I always thought that was so awesome before I even had kids. Miss Kim and Laura had kids and they had each other's kids in their classrooms, and it was just such that great family feel that I was like, when I want kids, I want them to come here because I love that family feel. And then I had Mason, and over there he had that, and it was just so nice because we just took care of each other's kids, not just because they were in our class, but we treated them like they were our own. So that was that.
Well, thank you.
Well, another quick fun fact, Linda and I went to school with
my older
Melissa's brother Tommy. Yep.
Yes. So that is another connection. Yes.
I am learning so much today from these chats. I thought I knew everything about you guys, but I guess you can always learn more.
Yeah.
That you guys are all connected from your first child care center before Magical Beginnings. Like, that I did not see coming. So let's move on to, so there's 3 Melissas at the, between the 2 Middleton locations. We just like to confuse people when they call on the phones.
Half this chat is Melissa's.
Yes. So we will leave Melissa Ritchie to go over to Melissa Mishi, who we call Mimi. So Mimi, why don't you tell us your story of Magical Beginnings?
So I actually grew up 2 streets down from the Peabody location. When I was younger, it wasn't Magical Beginnings yet, but my mother worked at Tilly's next door. So she always told me, when it did open, you should go there, when you finally do get into the field. So I started in high school interested in working in childcare. I took some childhood classes in there. And once I graduated high school, I actually went to college at Southern New Hampshire University. So I got my degree in child development, and some of it was business, and then the business aspect, and then a lot of it focused on children. And I started to take psychology classes and loved child psychology. So I got a minor in child psychology as well, as an extra bonus of working in the field. So I ended up having my son and deciding to move home from New Hampshire to be closer to family down here, and moved home with my mom for a while, and then applied at the Peabody location, which they didn't have any openings at that time because they always keep their teachers and the kids are always full. So I started in Middleton, and my first co-teacher was actually Miss Kim, who is the director at our Hamilton school. So she was my first co-teacher. And I worked in toddlers for about 7 years. And then I ended up having my daughter. I bought my childhood house that I grew up in. So still live 2 streets down from the Peabody location, but bought my parents' house. Had my daughter. And then once my daughter was born, they offered me the office manager position because they knew that I wanted to eventually grow with the company and move up. And so I was an office manager for about a year and a half, and then just got promoted to assistant director. So I've been in the office for 2 years. So I've been with the company for 9 years now.
Wow, that's awesome. I can't believe you grew up right near Peabody. I mean, I can believe it after all these stories, but so I just want to say thank you guys for sharing. I think it's so nice to see, you know, how many connections we have in this little group, but also how many connections we have to Kim and Courtney too, because I feel like everybody has a connection to either Laura or her two sisters in some way. But I really feel like the connections we have with each other is what keeps our company, you know, no matter how big we get, from feeling like we're all still running the same and we're all still, you know, like our little family. Like I would consider our directors group a family group. And, you know, it's nice to see that all your children went through this program, and that my child will go through this program. And I think, you know, just that alone, like you said, Melissa, having a great group of women to help you raise your children is amazing. And, you know, I just don't think we can say enough good things about being managers at Magical Beginnings. So thank you all so much for sharing your story and for being part of our founding 3 schools. I think that's, you know, great to note too. So yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
All right, so stay tuned for the next series of Meet the Directors, which will feature the directors from our Magical Beginnings River Street location right here where I work, our Magical Beginnings Essex location, and our Magical Beginnings Hamilton location. Thank you and have a great day.